Faithfully His. This is episode 6 and part 3 of our love series, and our topic today is
self-love.
Awesome. And what are we going to be unpacking with self-love?
So I think it's important to understand what self-love is and how this generation has kind of warped what self-love is. It gets changed into all sorts of different things, which it shouldn't be, because self-love is a good thing and it's a necessity in this generation. I think we're just gonna see what God's standpoint on it is and just discuss that.
And what do you think about how do they warp self-love?
So it's become very if you love yourself, you have a big ego, or it's a pride thing, or you just see yourself as so much better than everyone else. But it's not like that. Self-love is to know your worth and to know and to see in yourself what God sees in you,
I think self-love, to society, can be very superficial and can become a bit of a performance, who has the smallest body or the smallest waist or the longest eyelashes, and it becomes such a superficial thing, what's on your skin. It doesn't matter how nice of a person you are, or what your values or beliefs or morals or who your friends are. It doesn't matter, but all that matters nowadays is how you look.
Definitely.
And what do you think God says about that?
I think God sees you not based on how you look. I think he sees what's inside and how you treat people and how you share his light, and that's what gives you worth. I mean, that is our purpose. So.
Yeah. I love the verse, Romans 12 verse 2 says, "Do not conform to the world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." It doesn't talk about the renewing of your body. It doesn't talk about, what you look like as a person. It talks about the renewing of your mind.
Yeah.
And, people always say, I go for personality, not looks. But the problem is our society is so flawed that its only focus is on looks.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the only way we can renew our minds is to practice self-love and to see ourselves the way God sees us, or at least try to.
Yeah. I know we're very passionate about self-love. Can you give some insight as to why?
That obviously it starts on the outside, but it starts to seep into your soul, and you start looking at yourself am I not a nice person? Am
I not funny enough?
Yeah. And all these things just play in your mind, and it's because of things that people said to us when we were young. I mean,
yeah, but I think because I know our mom, from when we were young, she was on diets all the time, and exercising was the biggest thing. And and as a small child, you start to look and you're but I think my mom's beautiful. Why doesn't she? And then you start to look at yourself and you're well, if she doesn't think she's beautiful, I look like her. So, what's wrong with me then? And it's a whole cycle, and I, for one, want to break that cycle with my future kids and even with my family and my friends, and it's rough. I know I've struggled with self-love for a very long time, and I've gotten a lot better at it, especially in the past couple of months, the past 6 months. I've really worked hard on, trying to get out of that trap. But I still have my days where I'm
the roots are still woven around the hearts, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I think, the biggest thing with generational issues, because, your mother could have grown up with a mother that did the exact same to her, so they don't see that, this is a problem, because it's not talked about enough. People don't talk about self-love at all these days. They talk about you need to love yourself,
you need to worship yourself.
If that's pride, that's not what self-love is. Self-love comes from the inside. It's not about your outside appearance.
Yes. There's that TikTok trend, I don't know if it's still going around, but it was going around a month or so ago, where the girls would post themselves when they were super, super skinny and say, "I'm sorry that you loved me when I was starving myself," or something like that, or when I was killing myself, and then showing them now and how much happier they are. And I think it's so fundamental to remember, God didn't ask us to be the best person out there. God didn't ask us to be the prettiest. God asked us to be who we are in Him. And I think that's so important. But I also think, do boys experience problems with self-love, or men?
I think they don't even think that self-love should occur to them. And it's so sad for me, because men, everyone's if you're arrogant, you know, and they're like, oh, you have such a big ego. But most of the time, that ego is just compensating for insecurity.
It's rooted in insecurity.
And like they can't pick that up because they don't, like a lot of men don't know that self-love is a thing, is an actual thing that you need to work on and you need to work towards. And it's just so sad for me.
I know, like, obviously in society nowadays, like toxic masculinity and any kind of masculinity is actually looked down upon and stuff, and men should thrive in their emotions and all of that stuff, which obviously, you know, us as women of God, we one day would want a guy who can protect us and help us. We need to step into our roles as women and men of God. But with society embracing men behaving as women, with society embracing men so much and their femininity side, why do men still feel like they can't be insecure?
Well, I think they're still like trying to prove a point. I think like there's still this instinct in them that wants to, you know, dominate and wants to be the strong one and wants to, you know, control you, not in a like a bad way, but like, you know, they want to have those strong manly masculine elements in themselves still, because it is rooted deep in the male genetics.
But it's I mean, like, it's their DNA, like to be, but why, like, because I've spoken to lots of men who are insecure, but they'll never tell you, and they'll never. But you can see in how they behave, and you can see in how they treat other people as well.
Yeah, that's a big one.
But I strongly believe that if men and women actually stepped into the positions that God has given them, this whole generation would turn around.
Yeah.
If the men steps into their roles as the protector and as the being submitted to God and leading through that, and women steps into their part of, I hate saying submission, but it is submission, but not the way that the world sees us as weak, but submission in submitting to a man who's already submitted to God.
Yeah.
I think if they stepped to those roles instead of letting the insecurities overrule them, this whole generation would be turned around.
But all the, like, you know, when you have a crush these days, they're like, oh, if they wanted to, they would. And like these days, there's this whole thing of like, you know, men wanting to attract and not chase, and like they love the chase and whatever. That's not how it's supposed to be. Like, and the reason that these guys like love when girls chase them and like, you know, want to be able to tell everyone that this girl is after them is rooted in insecurity. They want, they want to prove that, you know, this girl likes me. But even though they don't want to pursue that girl, they just want to prove that, you know, I had a chance like that. And they're never gonna go and chase you. That you have to chase them, and that's all rooted in insecurity.
It is, and it's shown everywhere. I mean, even on TV shows nowadays, like, you know, you play hard to get because you know the man loves the chase. Like, no. You are a woman of God. You need to stand firm. You need to be, and I actually, someone told me this the other day at youth. God is up here, the woman is here, and the man is here. It makes a triangle, okay? And the closer the man and the woman try to get to God, the closer they get to each other as well. And I think that's beautiful, because that's so true. Like, if your partner, man or woman, is not chasing God as hard as you are, there's no point in being with him.
Not at all.
And I think especially as women of God, we get trapped in that very quickly, because we think, oh no, but they, you know, they're Christian, you know, they're fun.
And we want it so badly that we end up tricking ourselves into thinking that's what it is.
But because of insecurity, our gender roles have been completely taken away from us.
You know? And we lose our dignity, actually. Like, it's just...
And when we try to chase a guy who is insecure, it ends up feeding into us, and we start getting insecurities, because like, oh, but why doesn't he like me? Why doesn't he want me? What's wrong with me? It's not what's wrong with you. Why is that man allowing you to chase him? He should be, you know.
And you know, sometimes when you're like, no, but he's a man of God, like, he wouldn't do that. He would do that. Like, some of the men of God are way worse. Okay, but that doesn't mean that means they're not a man of God.
Yes.
But like if they say they're Christian, that does not mean they're not going to hurt you. Like trust and believe, sometimes it's even worse.
Same
like
with the
they
ladies,
use
guys.
that against you. Yeah,
Yes.
same with the ladies.
Same with the ladies. Ladies, we can manipulate. I know we can because I was there once. We can manipulate and we can also control. So boys, you need to also watch out for ladies who are saying that they are women of God but are not showing fruits. Because when you won't realize you're being manipulated until it's too
the
late.
rose-colored glasses come off.
And I've seen it happen, with friends and stuff. And I've seen how girls lead boys on just because they're bored, and it's not okay. And
also, like, remember, you can't fill someone else's cup if your cup is empty.
Yes.
So you need to, that's why it's so important to work on yourself in God and, use God to have self-love.
Yes.
Because you cannot fill someone else's cup if yours is empty. Like, that's just not how it works. You're gonna neglect yourself, and this person's gonna end up hurting you. You're gonna end up hurting that person because you don't have enough love for yourself.
Yes, I mean, ladies, 100 boys can tell you you're beautiful. Guys, 100 girls can tell you you are handsome. But until you believe it yourself, it doesn't matter.
It's not gonna mean anything.
I struggled with self-love, and every time I told someone that I struggled with it, they're like, oh, but you're beautiful. Why do you struggle? Like, it didn't matter. It didn't matter how beautiful other people thought I was. If I didn't think I was beautiful, it didn't change a thing.
Yeah.
And I also think like society traps you, because what they do is in every TV show, in every movie, in every magazine, in every book, the main character is stunning.
Yeah.
Like, stunning. You can't even
we actually are guilty of that because we won't watch a movie if the main characters are
100%.
beautiful.
We'll switch on a movie, we're like, nah, next.
Yeah, and it's bad. Like, it's so sad, actually.
It's manipulating us because, and even the influencers.
Yeah.
Oh, guys, you shouldn't have any body hair. It's natural.
Yeah.
Okay?
They take away any authenticity of humans and they turn it into something so ugly.
And even boys, needing rock hard abs. No, like go speak to a normal girl and ask if they want rock hard. I mean, some do, but
I mean, look, sometimes it's just a bonus, but it's not a necessity,
No, it's never been. But
and it's not something like, oh, he doesn't have abs, I'm just gonna never date him. You know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't ever be like that.
And if you speak to an influencer, they'll say, oh no, that is something that is my type, and that's what I want.
But that also doesn't mean that we should just drop all our standards. Like, that's not what we're saying here.
No.
Like, our standards should still be in place. However, our standards should be about the personality and not about the looks. I mean, sometimes you have a type. Yeah. That's just how it is. But you can't base your entire life on how, and especially you can't, not look at his personality because his looks are exactly your type and that's the kind of life you want with that guy, but his personality is nothing that you want.
Yes,
you convince yourself to want that.
Yeah, that's also, you need to recognize those lies in your mind. Like, I think when society tells us so many things, I'll look at a dress in the shops and be like, oh, I love that dress, but I could never wear it. And immediately I know, okay, wait, is that the devil? Or is that God? Because God would never say that. God would say, oh, Jade, you look like a princess in that dress,
Yeah.
And I think, like, I fought always with modesty because I was like, but how are people going to know I'm beautiful if I don't show off my assets, And how are people going to think I'm beautiful because boys only go for the girls with the short skirts, or boys only go for the girls with a loss of cleavage, and and that was always a thing, especially when we were in club culture and stuff,
Yeah, based on what you said about like God looking at you like a princess, I think we need to remember that the enemy wants us to feel shame, and self-love, like true self-love rooted in God, takes away shame. God doesn't want you to feel shame. Remember, God doesn't condemn us. Our enemy condemns us. So that shame that we feel can be counteracted by self-love, because if you love yourself, you'll accept that yes, we make mistakes, but that doesn't define who I am, I feel like God's love sets a standard for our self-worth.
Yes.
Yes,
because if the Almighty God who created this entire world and universe and every speck of dust on the earth loves us and thinks we are beautiful and adores us and wants to spend eternity with us.
Yeah.
Who is anyone else to say anything?
I saw somewhere the other day, it was like the same God that made the ocean and that made the mountain ranges also made you. Like,
Yes.
and he sees that same beauty in you, and that's just beautiful.
Yeah, it is. But why is it that like we still struggle with that? Why?
It's because society hammers it into us. Like you can't be skinny enough. You can never be skinny enough. Like, I mean, people are like slandering the most beautiful celebrities and they're saying they look ugly. Like, sorry, like where does that leave us? You know what I mean?
And men are cheating on the most beautiful women, and beautiful women are cheating on the most beautiful men, and
also you said cheating, like, remember, if you get cheated on, that has nothing to do with who you are or how you look. Like,
everything to do with the other person.
Yeah, it's not about you at all. I mean, like you just said, Jennifer Aniston got cheated on. Like you know what I mean? So
Megan Fox got cheated on.
like never.
Not sure about her personality, but she's gorgeous.
So never look at yourself and be like, he just didn't want me. That's not what it was. That guy, again, his insecurities, unfortunately, just took over.
Yes, and I know, like, this might sound one-sided, like we're for the women who have insecurities, but
no,
to be honest, we don't know much about the men and their insecurities. So if anyone has any insight,
we've just experienced a lot of that, so we know how it feels and we know the thoughts that come after.
Yes.
And it does go both ways. I mean, if a girl cheats on a guy, it has nothing to do with who the guy is.
I've spoken to the most beautiful boys, and their Jesus light is nowhere to be found, and they become less and less attractive very quickly.
Definitely.
You know, so I'm not saying every girl is like this, but I truly think that a woman of God is not looking for you. She's looking for Jesus in you.
Yeah.
And if she finds Jesus in you, then you will be deemed worthy. You know?
And you have to, you need to show off that you have Jesus in you. Like, why wouldn't you want to? Yeah.
Because if you truly are looking for a woman of God, and I'm saying this as I hope a woman of God myself, I'm not looking for the best looking guy. I'm looking for someone who wants to shine his light and shine Jesus' light for.
And who will help you get closer to God and will lead you.
Will lead me exactly, because he has submitted to God, and that I will be happy to trust him and feel safe with him because of that. So guys, as much as we're not talking from experience of you guys, we don't understand what you go through because it's not said enough at all.
Yeah,
it's not spoken about.
It doesn't get spoken about.
And if you guys do have you want a voice, please let us know. Like, we are happy to speak about it on here as well. But I know that you guys struggle. I've spoken to a very few men who have admitted that they struggle with insecurities. But just know that if you are shining that light, we see you, and and we appreciate that, and we need more of you. Amen.
Okay, I have a question. So, if you saw yourself the way Jesus sees you, what in your life do you think would change?
I think if I saw myself the way that Jesus does, I would feel a lot more free. And unrestrained.
No, I agree. I think also, I think for me especially, this is personal, but I think a lot of my pain in my life is because I don't know how to love myself. And you start to seek validation from people that you should not be seeking validation from. And when you don't get that validation, it's like world ending. And it actually physically hurts, So I think if I saw myself the way Jesus saw me, I think there would be a lot less pain, and there would be a lot less pain in the world, because I think a lot of people are like that and they don't even realize it. Like, a lot of people's problems roots because they don't know how to love themselves.
And I think with how society traps us with those things, as soon as we can separate the thoughts in our heads from God and the devil, I think then we can shove them out, but it's so difficult.
It's so difficult.
Because how do you recognize which one, obviously we know God only wants love for us, but how do we know that maybe he's saying this because he loves us and he wants to help us, or is the devil doing this? How do we recognize that?
But sometimes it's hard, because even if it feels so real, and it's like it must be Jesus talking to me, but then there's also you also want it so badly for yourself. So you're gonna make it more real in your head, and things are gonna start lining up because you want it so bad. You're gonna start seeing those things, but actually it's the enemy trying to get your walls down, you know? So it's so difficult.
I think he does that with relationships the most. He uses relationships because the thing is, if I'm with someone, especially if I'm still like more of an insecure person, like if I get with someone when I'm still insecure, like you said earlier, with my cup half full, because if you are insecure, you are not fully living in the life that God has for you. So if your cup is half full and you get into a relationship, you expect that relationship to make you whole, and that person on the other side might be doing the same, and then you are taking from each other more and more. You're pulling stuff out from each other, and by the end of the relationship, you're both there more empty than you started. And I think the devil uses that because he's like, oh, this is a man of God, he, you know, he's a little bit insecure, but you know, he'll love you and he'll validate you and he'll make you feel wanted. That is from the devil, because that is, I mean, it's so clever, because, and the devil is clever, guys. Like God says he's a clever trickster, but
because that's what we crave. I mean, we want to be wanted. That's human nature.
100%. What do you think about comparison?
Comparison is the root of failure, in my opinion.
We grew up with it. Eh? Like, every time we got a bad mark, oh, but this person got that mark. And
again, it's forced into our heads. I think comparison is the kind of thing that kind of sneaks up on you because you don't even realize you're doing it. Yeah, and like, I mean, with us, okay, I was the younger sister, so like in school, the teacher would be like, oh, are you Jade's sister? And I'll be like, yeah. And then at the end of the year, they'd be like, you're not Jade's sister, you know, because I was a lot more talkative than she was. She was like a teacher's pet.
Naughty.
My desk was facing the wall most of the time. So, you know, it hurts. Like, even though I did everything to deserve that from my teacher, like, it hurts. And it's like, oh, my sister's just always gonna one-up me, you know? And like, that's comparison. Like, and like, this was when I was younger. Like, as I got older, I was like, I don't really care. But when I was younger, like, it really used to get to me. And I realize now when I look at it, I'm like, I should have been like, yeah, that's my sister, you know, I should learn from her and I should want her to be better than me. I mean, your sister is the one person that, or like your relative or your sibling is the one person that you should want to just be so much better than you, you know? And like, I should have, and I never did. And that caused issues within myself. And like, it's always a thing, like, oh, is she the favorite kid? Is she the favorite grandchild? Is she the, you know, it was always a thing in my head. And like, it's so sad because we were children, you know?
Yeah, and you know, it's like crazy. Like, I was always looking at how she always had so many friends and how she always was such an extrovert, and she was so able to speak to people, whereas I was not. I was the little introvert that read my books.
Yeah, and then Corona hits, and then we were both little introverts that read our books.
Now we are both little introverts.
Yeah, so you know.
But like, she was comparing herself to me the whole time, and I was comparing myself to her the whole time. And that caused such a break in our relationship. Like, we weren't very close when we were younger.
Not at all,
because I was trying to be like her the whole time and she was trying to be like me the whole time. I don't want to be jealous of other girls because they are succeeding, you know, that's not right.
And it's hard, like, jealousy is another, unfortunately, it's a human experience through all. So don't like shame yourself if you know, still do, because it's hard, like, and you have to fight it because it just takes over sometimes.
Validation from guys was always the biggest thing. Like, oh, he thinks I'm pretty, now I am. Like, that was such a big thing for me.
Yeah.
And like, if I didn't, especially when I was coming out of my time of the clubs and stuff, the only real reason that I missed it was because of the male validation that I used to get, you know. And that for me was so sad, because I was like, how can I only believe I'm beautiful because a man has told me? And I'm sure the men feel the same way.
Yeah.
But while you are looking at a boy who is not worthy of you because he can't see your value, some other future husband is looking at you and saying, wow, she's incredible.
But then he won't go after you because he can see that you're trying to change yourself for someone else.
Yes, when he loves you just the way you are. And same for the boys. I've seen it happen. Hey, I've really not necessarily been involved in it, but like, I've seen where boys love this girl so much, but the girl just isn't seeing the value in them. But there's another girl that I know of that loves him,
and you can see it.
You can see it, and she treasures him and she values him, but he is so focused on this girl who doesn't even think of him.
And sometimes it's your pride that gets in the way. Like eventually it's just trying to prove a point that I can get him to like me.
But it's comparison again, because but that girl's popular and that one's not, so I want the popular one.
Yeah, that's very true.
And I'm not even talking about looks anymore, because like looks is what started all of this, but now it's gone so much deeper, because now it's not just about looks, it's about I'm not funny enough, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough. Guys, in every room you walk into, there will always be someone more beautiful, there will always be someone more smarter. Not me. There will always be someone smarter, there will always be someone funnier, there will always be someone that is better. And you are going to think, oh, they're so much better than me, but you have different value. You are different. You're different people.
And whatever room you walk into, someone is going to notice something about you, and they're going to be like, I wish I could do that, you know?
Yes. But you should not be jealous of that person who is better than you, because they're not better than you. They might be more of certain things.
They might have a skill that you maybe don't, but you have so many skills that other people don't.
Yes, and you need to stop comparing yourself to other people, because until you stop doing that, you'll never be able to truly love yourself, because you can't see that you have value, even though other people also have value. Everyone has value.
One person's beauty doesn't take away from yours.
Yes, exactly. And to be beautiful, you don't need to show off skin. You don't need to kill yourself in the gym. You don't need to starve yourself
and plaster yourself with makeup. Like, it's not worth it.
We've been there. We've been through all of them. Okay, we never figured out quite how to starve ourselves.
We tried though, and that's what matters.
We tried all of it. Okay, but
don't starve yourself.
But none of it was healing. None of it helps. No matter how much. I look back at photos 5 years ago when I was like half the size I am now, and I was like, why did I hate myself?
When I was 12, I looked at photos when I was 12, and I saw this photo that I was at a party. It was a 13th party, and I remember that day, and I remember I hated the top I was wearing because my tummy like peeked out a little bit, and I was like, everyone's gonna call me fat. I looked at the photo. I was like a twig. Like, I don't actually even know what I even thought, and it's so sad for me because I wasted my young years hating myself when there was absolutely nothing wrong with me. Like, it's so sad.
Jesus does not want you to just survive. He died for you so you could live. That means go dance barefoot, go swim when you want to, don't worry about who's watching. Like, be who you are.
And look, it's hard. Like, we haven't mastered that yet. I don't think we ever will, but you want to continuously work towards that, because what is the point of life if we just sitting around hating ourselves?
And the thing is, your light is not going to be able to shine if you hate yourself, because the thing is, like, if you don't have confidence, how are you going to talk to other people about Jesus? If everyone knows I hate myself, why would they want to believe in the Savior that made me? Because they're like, oh, but she hates herself, so, I don't want to be there where she is. So...
Remember, actions speak louder than words. Like, people watch and see how you are living, and if they don't want to live like that, they're not going to do what you do.
Yes. And it's also important to remember God doesn't look at what's on the outside. And I know, like, I would love to be the most beautiful, the skinniest, all of those things. I love that.
I think we all would.
But the thing is, it's not important in the big scheme
of things. And it's not, when we are the skinniest it's not going to make us feel good inside. That's not going to change what we feel on the inside, because it was never about being skinny enough. It was about our mindset.
1 Samuel 16 verse 7 says, the Lord does not look at what people look at. He looks to the heart, whereas people look at the outside. And that's such an important verse for me that I need to repeat to myself, because especially when I have my days where I don't feel good about how I look, and those days do happen, then I need to remind myself, it doesn't matter how I look, it doesn't matter how much I weigh. You can't be so focused on everything else.
Yeah, because self-love it's not about the outside, and nothing is about, like, you need to feel good for yourself, but never change yourself to please someone else.
Yes.
Like, it's never gonna please you or God, you know?
Yes, because the people who really love you will love you, not how you look.
Yeah. Also, we all know the verse, like, love yourself as you love your neighbor, you know? I think that's such a deep verse, actually, because, like, God assumed that we loved ourselves so much, and he created us to love ourselves enough to love someone else, you know? So, like, and I've read this verse a million times, and I never even thought about it like that, you know? Like, he created us specifically to love ourselves so that we can love someone else, you know? I just think that's so beautiful.
But don't you think also, like, part of it, obviously, like, he knows everything that is going to happen, you know, and maybe he knew that we would struggle to love ourselves, but he was saying, unless you can love yourself,
you're not going to be able to love someone else.
Neighbors.
Yeah.
And that's such a thing that gets told to us, and I'm sure it was mentioned in our episode 5 podcast, where if you don't love yourself, you can't love anyone else.
Yeah.
And it's true, because like I said, if your cup is half empty, how are you going to be able to fill or help someone else, you know?
No, you can't give what you don't have.
Yes. And if you don't love yourself, you'll never understand why that person loves you.
Yeah, and you'll never be able to accept love either.
Yes, 100%. I've watched relationships burn because the one person in the relationship refuses to believe that person loves them, and then everything they do, they don't trust. They don't trust if you go out alone. They don't trust if you go for a girls' night or a boys' night, or you know, they don't trust that because they don't trust that you will stay loyal because you love them.
Yeah, it causes all these little problems that end up exploding.
And you can see how much that person loves them, but that other one does not believe it because they do not love themselves.
Yeah,
so how
you'll
will they
never
see
be
that?
able to see it if you can't see it in yourself first.
Yes. And I love this quote. It says, to love yourself in the light of the one who loved you first is vital. And
that's beautiful.
Yeah. And, you know, to love yourself in the light, you know, like outwardly. People need to see that you love who God created, you know?
Yeah.
It's so important, because how are you going to encourage them to love themselves if you don't love yourself?
And especially, like, if your best friend, or, like, you know, the person you cherish most comes to you and is like, I hate myself. Like, I look in the mirror and I just want to cry. Like, how would that make you? Like, you would be like, what?
No.
Like, how? You are, like, amazing. That's how people see you. So, like, you can't be, it's like, what's the log one? You can't
take the speck of dust
out of someone else's eye if you have a log in your own eye. Like, you can't point at someone and be like, you're beautiful, like, you must love yourself. If you're sitting there and go home and cry because you don't look a certain way, like, you have to prioritize it for yourself, because it's gonna cause issues in your life.
And a big part plays on who you surround yourself with as well. But, like, the people I'm surrounded with, like, specifically, like, you know, my close friends and obviously my sister, they boost me. Like, if I do come one day and, you know, you can see something wrong, they're like, you look beautiful today. Like, you know, I don't even have to say, I don't know what to do. You know, I just have to walk in and they know, because they are the same, on the same spirit wave as I am, you know.
Yeah, definitely.
Before we wrap this up, I just want to mention, like, your body is a temple. You need to feed it. You need to look after it. You need to move it. You need to do all these things, not as a punishment, but because you love your body.
Yeah.
And you want the best for it. And your personality is your personality, and it is beautiful.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you need to change unless you're not shining Jesus' light. That will be the one thing.
Yeah.
As long as you are shining Jesus' light, you will be seen by the people who need you to be seen. I remember when I got out of my toxic relationship, I prayed a prayer that, you know, I came to regret a couple of times, but I now love. And I prayed that boys who were not going to see the true value in me would not see anything in me. And, you know, like, there were the few times when I needed that validation. I was like, God, but why not? And then I remember that prayer. I was like, okay, yes, okay, they don't see the value in me, so they should not be with me, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and I think just remember that you know, self-love is not vanity, it's caretaking. And like you said, we are a temple. God created us, we are his temple, and we want to protect that and we want to take care of that. And yeah. Okay guys, so remember the verse that everyone uses, Psalm 139 verse 14. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I know it's overused and I know everyone says it, but it is true, and God intended for us to be that way. And just remember how beautiful that is.
Yeah, and that you are made in God's image, and that doesn't talk about your superficial how you look, but it talks about your inside. Make sure
who you actually are.
Yes, and make sure that reflects who God is as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, we love you guys, and men, if you have any insight to this that we maybe didn't cover, please let us know.
Yeah, we're happy to do another episode from a male perspective, or if just let us know, and we will definitely
message us on, I don't know if you can even message on YouTube, comment on the video, or we have TikTok pages and Instagram pages that you can also go and DM.
Yeah, we'll put the link in the bio.
Yes, and if you have any other ideas or episodes, please let us know. We are open to any feedback.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you guys so much, and have a great week.
Thanks guys. Bye.
Bye.